Welcome you to EDA customer. This YouTube video will explain about how to set up the EDA environment on Windows 2022 Universe 14.1.1 server and connect to our SQL Server 2022 Express version step by step. After the EDA environment is set, so you can convert a universe file like a states file to SQL Server 2022. So I will explain to you how to set up the environment very easy. The first, you need to download all the software on one machine or two machines. For my demo, I create a virtual machine on Windows 2022 server version. So I can download the Universe 14.1.1 or other version from our RBC website and get the right version for Windows. Download it. And also I need to download Microsoft SQL Server 2022 Express version. You can go to the Microsoft website to download the software. Also, you will need the Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio called SSMS, and also need it to set up the EDA environment. Last component will require to EDA schema management tool. The latest one right now is 4.5.0. You also can download from Rocket's RBC website. So first, on how to install it, 14.1.1, it's very easy. You just go to for a Windows version and you just install it. You see the started. You will see the menu like this. You will see the option to install 64-bit version on Windows environment. So after you install it, very important things to make sure you have a right permission to work on your Universe system. Uh, I set up the very important for user group to set up on all the U2 UV folder and set up the full control to make it easy to allow the user, any kind of user, part of the user group can update, insert, delete to set up your universe environment. And next step is very important. You need to require universe EDA license. When you run UV region -z option, you will see you have a license. If you don't have, or you may be require to purchase or just for the beta to send a request to ask for temporary license to get the EDA license. The next step we call EDA config file to set up the EDA configuration file. It will require in the Universe home directories. For SQL Server is by default, so you don't need to set up anything. It's fine. But if you use in other database like MySQL, Oracle, you definitely need to set a particular driver required. So on Windows, the driver setting is SQLSRV. For the log level is 0 to 8. So if you set to 8 is maximum log level, so you will create a log file on Windows. It will be a C drive, U2, UV, UV10 folder. Make sure you have the right permission to write the log file to that particular UV10 folder. So next step, you will require to install the SQL Server 2022 Express version on your Windows machine. This machine, I install every software on the one machine. You can set up on different machine, but if you set up on the different machine, make sure your TCP/IP protocol is enabled. So by default, it's disabled. So you can run the SQL Server Configuration Manager tool to change the TCP/IP setting. For the SQL Server SSID will be the machine name or IP address as for the backslash SQLEXPRESS. You can find the name in the services of the tool. You can see the particular the name, so you can connect it. For local machine, you can use in the local connectors. It's fine, but if you use another machine to connect to this SQL Server, definitely you need to specify the SSID name. The next step will require to install the SQL Server Management Studio tool called SSMS. When you install this tool, it's not just tool, it also include a lot of the additional driver like ODBC driver 17, some DB driver and other component will require to work with SSMS tool. So after you connect it, you might be using first time you just using local connection. So after you connect it, you will see the output something like this. You have to see the database security folder something. You might be required to config additional setting on your system. So for the testing purpose, maybe you like to create a separate database. For my testing, I always create called UV underscore database to store all the my EDA data table. And also, I like to create a separate user to testing using the SQL Server user, not using the Windows integration user. So it's more easy to do the setting. Also, it can work with the other like a Linux environment. So I always create a user called EDA user by on the SQL Server 2022 Express version by default, they have option need to set up the you must be changing the password and next login option. So you can run the command called auto login EDA user password in the SSMS tool. So next time you can connect. Otherwise, you will see this deny connected error. Also, I like to set up the additional option called SQL Server. Set the SQL Server and Windows authentication mode both. By default, only Windows authentication mode. But I like to set SQL Server connection mode also, so you can use in SQL Server users to connect it. After you change it, you must be restart the SQL Server Express process using the Windows services to restart your SQL Server. Sometimes for my testing, I don't need to set up the TCP/IP protocol because every connection is locally. If you're using other machine, definitely you need to enable TCP/IP protocol to allow you to communicate other machine. So from after you install this SMS tool, so you can start to connect to your SQL Server, and I can first I like to create a UV underscore database, and also create a new user called EDA user. And very important, you need to set up additional role. As I, I set the sysadm user server role on the EDA user, so it will allow you to update, create table on the SQL Server when you connect to EDA user. Also, you will see the option In the security option, they have a SQL Server. I change it to allow you both using the SQL Server user connection and the Windows authentication connection. So next step, because you install SSMS tool, so you will see additional SQL Server ODBC client installed on your machine. For my installation, it will come with ODBC driver 17 for SQL Server connection. Basically, it's a native driver. So after, because EDA rely on ODBC DSN, so I need to create the DSN. For my test, I always like to use in the system DSN to can allow you the multiple user to connect to your SQL Server. So here's the setting when you using ODBC data source administrator to create I call the name called SQL Server 2022, the system DSN, and connect to my local SQL Server 2022. The last installation will be install the EDA Schema Manager tool. Latest one is 450. You can go to the DB tool, set to choose the EDA option to install it. It can allow you to connect to Universe. For my testing is 14.1.1, and I also like to create the EDA data source. EDA data source I use the same name called SQL Server 2022. Using the system DSN second line is a point to Microsoft system DSN name. I use the same name, so it will be SQL Server 2022. Driver option on Windows will be SQLSRV -1NF, and I add the user. It's the SQL Server user called EDA. I set up, add a new user, and the test connection. I can connect from my Windows EDA Schema Manager tool, connect to SQL Server. So after I create EDA data source, I can very easy to create a schema and convert the universe file. What I use in the state file in the hs.sales account to convert it. So first time I do the conversion, I can do the second time, I can do the reconvert. I just click on the EDA convert several times to reconvert the state file became EDA as state EDA file. So after you convert it from the SQL Server, you can see the output. You are basically store the data in the UV underscore database table, the database, and you will generally call states.states table. The first state will be the schema name, and second one is called states table. If you use convert like a customer, it might be a multiple table will store in this UV underscore database. So if you have some issue, you might want to convert. You want to log in the EDA driver log. EDA driver log is very easy to turn it on. It's called EDA config file. It's not EDA config.txt file. So make sure it's no .txt extension for the file name. So after that, basically two lines. First line called driver equal SQLSRV. The second line is log level. You can set 0 to 8. If you like to get the more detailed, the different, you can look at the EDA menu. It will show, it will explain to you what kind of different for log level. So after that, you make any EDA tool connect to your universe. you will generate the log file in the UV10 folder. Basically, you will generate the log file here, so you can look at the detail how EDA driver log works. So sometimes relate to Microsoft ODBC connection issue or some functionality problem, you might want to turn on a Microsoft ODBC data source administrator tracing. They have option to turn log file. So it's on the particular folder. You can change it to get the more detail for the ODBC driver logging. The last one is for EDA schema tool. It basically is connected to Universe using the Universe UniObjects server. For Universe, basically server process called UVCS by default. So when you have a server process, it basically will call a subroutine, a multiple subroutine to work with Universe server. So if any problem on server side, you like to turn on the server logging and to get more detail for the problem. So for the Universe UniObject server login, very simple to create a file called server debug file in the Universe UV folder. So when this folder, you basically just set up the one line called UVCS log level from 0 to 10, and log file name. We can put any folder like this one. You put on the temp folder, uvcs.log, but make sure that you connected user must have a full control for C10 folder to generate the log file in the C10 folder. Otherwise, it might be cause other issue. So next, I will demo how to make it work on the Windows machine. So this is my virtual machine. I go do the demo. So first, I like to go to the website to download all the software. I put everything in this folder, include in Universe 14.1, also like SQL Server Express and SSMS and DB tool, EDA tool, to put everything in this folder. So next step, I will be after you put on the one folder, you can go to here. 14, you just run auto run and automatic to install Universe by default will be installed in the U2 UV folder. So after you install it, make sure you have the right permission to work with your Universe environment. So I always like to make sure the property setting here. So that for the security on the Universe, make sure the user group, because my user is part of a user group, I like to have full control to set up all the subfolder. I have a permission to read and write all the setting. So next, very important to make sure the license. So you can run UV regen -z. So I already authorized the EDA license. I have -EDA option Y. So make sure I have an EDA license on my machine. So next step will be create the EDA config file on this machine. So EDA so make sure I have. Okay, so here I set up the EDA config file on this machine. So basically it's two lines called drivers, dir driver equal SQLSRV. Let's connect to Microsoft SQL Server. Log level I turn it on is 8. If you turn it off, just set to 0. So next step will be install the SQL Server Express. So I put everything here in this folder. Called this one is called SQL Server Express. So I already installed it, and you ask you, so do you want to install it? No, I already installed it, so I don't need to install it. So after install it, I choose the basic installation. After you install it, you will create a server, uh, the SQL Server and the machine name on the SQL Express. So if you look at the service, so after install it, the server, you will create couple of process. One is a very important one is called SQL Server Express. So must be running. It will automatic running on this local machine. So after install this one, next step we try to install the called SSMS tool. So after install it, then you can start the SM tool to connect to your this one. This one is already started. So you will create from here called tools SQL Server Manager Studios. Okay, so basically it's this one. After you install it, you have option to start the SSMS tool. Right now I install is the 20, version 20. So it will be this one. The next one is this one. Okay, that's the EDA Schema Manager tool. Yeah. So basically, it will be so you will connect to this one. So that's the connect to my local machine. So I already create one database called UV. So if you need to create database, basically you just use this option to create a new database. I use this option to create a called UV underscore database. The next step, very important to create a new user. So I using the connect to the new login to create the EDA user. So that's the option to create it. By default, you will see the user must be changed the password next login. So also I need to set up the role called sysadmin. They have a couple options. I like to have option to create a table, create insert data on using the EDA user. So I change the server role so I can edit or create a table. So that's the user permission to change it. So after I create it, sometimes you need to, if you don't change the password, uh, you won't allow you to connect it. So I need to make sure I can using the this command on this environment to change the EDA user to a new password here. So I after change it, so next time I can make a connection without any issue. Also, I like to make sure This server have option to security. So I right click on the server and make sure security I turn this one called SQL Server and the Windows authentication mode. By default is this one. When you change it and then you save it, then you need to restart the SQL Server. So after you have the new database here, also have a new user. So right now, next step, you will allow you to create the So next step, I allow you to using the ODBC 64-bit administrator. So this one, uh, after you install the SSMS tool, so you will see the driver options. This one. So you can create user. I like to always create the system administrator. So after I create this one connect to this the SQL Server. So next. So they have so many options. Right now I choose the SQL Server authentication. So using the EDA user. So next. So I change the database to UV database. So I can next. So next. So I can test. It should be come back successful. So it will allow you to connect to your SQL Server without any issue. This machine a little bit slow. It's fine. So after you create the system DSM, the next step we're using the EDA schema manager tool. So this the installation. So here's the schema manager tool. So when I connect it, then I also create the EDA data source. So the EDA DSN name I use in the same name SQL Server, same system DSM. So from this one, you can create and you can do the testing. The test button is here. So you see the successful. So from here, you can right click you can select the database. So I using this one, right click to generate the schema. So I already created. That's the state. So after I mapping, so they have ID, name. So after this, they have a couple options. First one is to check your schema. So it's fine. And second key is to show the schema name. You can get the DDL script. The main thing is the conversion. So you can use in this function to convert the state file became the state table. So I already created, but I can run again to reconvert. So here's the EDA conversion. So it's successful reconvert. So after you do the conversion, you can go back to check the SQL Server side. So here is back to the SSMS tool. So here you can look at the universe. Here's the table. You can right click, select 100. You can see the output in the SQL Server Express version. So that's the output here. So is everything successful to convert or do the reconvert process? So if you any problem, sometimes you want to turn on the logging. So here the option, they have a couple options to turn it on. The first is called EDA driver lock. So EDA driver I already show you is turning on. So basically it will be in the UV on Windows. You will create a called UV temp folder. So that's a EDA driver underscore SQL Server. I already can run twice. So you will see the two log. If you have multiple one, you will see the multiple log file for in the U2 UV temp folder. The next step, if you turn have some issue for ODBC, then you have another option to turn ODBC logging. They have basically they have an option called tracing here, and it's turning on for Microsoft ODBC tracing lock in this option. Must be some option to it. The last one is talking about server logging, UniObjects server logging. So because I install all the machine on the same machine, so you can turn on the log file by set up the universe. This one called server debug. So here the server debug option. Server, yeah, that's the file. So you can right click and see the option. So you will see, and you basically it's just one line. If you try to set the UniObject server log, make sure you have a C10 folder fully permission to write the log file in these folders. So after you create it, you can see in the C10 folder. Here just example to see the log file. So your log file basically you will create each detail to call the subroutine like a S2 sub, like a X2 EDA map sub functionality. So sometimes you can debugging on the server side. So basically, uh, I hope you can follow the step to create the EDA environment very easy and to learn how to set it up on EDA environment on your Windows system. Thank you for your watching. See you in next video.